You've probably been here before, haven't you? Sitting alone in a dark room, fantasizing about people who might be willing to kiss you, or even, dare I say it, love you. You see, our entire lives seem to revolve around love. That desperate search to share a bed, a mortgage, and ultimately a life with someone who isn't your hand. But the other day, I read some quite nasty things on the internet. They said that love is just hormonal, an animal reaction, that we don't consciously choose our partners, our tastes were decided before our birth, and that the chemical proteins that cause true love only last for 12 months. So I wanted to know, are we really romantic slaves to a chemical soup sploshing about in our blood? And if so, could I trick someone into falling in love with me? And then urinated a bit.
Oh wow.
To unravel this big pink mystery, I headed to meet Professor of Social Psychology and bona fide love expert Viren Swamy. Since you're the love guy, have you been able to effectively cheat your way through your dating life?
I would say probably not, mainly because I think it's one thing to have the knowledge and it's another thing to apply it. And applying it in real life can be really tricky.
When we think about love, we normally consider that the first step is obvious. Good old-fashioned attraction, a seemingly instant biological reaction flowing from brain to groin.
So attraction is a kind of initial sense of feeling like you want to be close to someone. It's a sense of kind of wanting to affiliate in the kind of more technical sense of it.
And when it comes to attraction, first impressions do seem to count. In fact, some scientists have speculated that there may be some truth to love at first sight. Evolved intuition allows individuals to rapidly evaluate a suitable partner in about 100 milliseconds.
Our apparently very horny ancestors weren't messing about.
As soon as we experience this attraction, our chemical brain kicks in, flooding our body with dopamine, the reward hormone, and norepinephrine, which gives you butterflies and sweaty hands. And when that attraction becomes romance, oxytocin and vasopressin get involved, which scientists believe create feelings of intimacy and attachment. It seems then that even long-term intimacy has a horrifyingly chemical basis. In fact, studies have shown that people who have more oxytocin receptors in their brain are more likely to develop lifelong pair bonds.
So whilst you might consider yourself a whimsical romantic, perhaps you just have a few more neurological receptors than your more relationship adverse friends. Perhaps love is less fairy tale and more extremely unsettling deterministic biology.
Whilst we might like to reduce the chemical explanation for love and lust, it can't be denied there's some pretty strong stuff in our blood.
In fact, the hormones associated with attraction and romance are the same ones released by drugs like MDMA, which is aptly nicknamed ecstasy, and some scientists are pretty confident that this makes MDMA a genuine love drug that should be studied as a possible tool for relationship therapy. And I for one would love to see this beautiful form of therapy trialed on my parents.
So okay, there's a lot going on inside the strange, unseen world of our loved up minds and bloodstreams. But what exactly is it about certain people that sends our bodies into a drugged up frenzy? Well, if we listen to evolutionary psychology, there's a pretty clear and universal set of traits that make for an attractive mate, prevalent across all cultures. Evolutionary psychologists basically claim that we're still stuck with dumb hunter-gatherer brains. So anything we see in someone that would have been advantageous to survival and reproduction about 2 million years ago continues to tickle one's pickle in the present. According to Professor David Buss from the University of Texas, men fancy women younger than themselves with a low waist to hip ratio, traits that apparently scream, "Look how fertile I am," whilst women prefer older, richer men who are big and strong, indicators that they can provide for any offspring and bonk any potential threats to death.
But evolutionary psychology has also faced a heap of scientific criticism. For a start, it's inherently untestable. We can't ever know what people were thinking or doing over 1 million years ago. It's also based on a very specific and unproven idea that the brain is split into specialised modules, whilst many cognitive scientists believe that the brain is far more malleable and can change massively based on personal experience and environment. Finally, a science that claims our entire psychology is driven by a desire to reproduce can't really explain things like homosexual relationships. So there's that.
According to other scientists like Viren, the things we look for in potential partners are strikingly different.
As a social psychologist, I would argue that most beauty ideals are constructed within particular social contexts. And that is the reason why you typically find quite wide variation in what is perceived as attractive, what is perceived as beautiful across different cultures, across time. It's not just about physical attractiveness, it's also about non-physical traits, like your sense of humour and whether I'm attracted to that. It's our sense of similarity, whether I feel like we're similar people. It's about the reciprocity that occurs in the relationship. Are you reciprocating my intimacy with you, for example?
So within this more complicated cultural understanding of love, is there any unifying tactic I could put to use myself?
The 36 questions was based on the principle of reciprocity. It's based on the idea that if you take turns reciprocating the exchange of information, you're much more likely to have to develop a sense of closeness. And it was developed by Arthur Aaron and his colleagues in the 1990s as a means of developing close contact between people. So people who engage in the 36 questions are much more likely to feel a sense of closeness compared to people who engage in small talk for the same period.
Sitting there next to Vera, and I began to wonder, could I utilise this sweet and endearing exercise to trick someone into falling in love with me? To find out, my producer set me up with a blind date so I could try the 36 questions on an actual human being.
Hello.
Hi,
Nice to meet you. Sorry.
But I also needed a scientific method of measuring how well the date was going. Thankfully, oxytocin, the intimacy hormone, has a visual signifier. It makes your pupils physically dilate, so I set up a camera to monitor my date's eyes up close throughout the date.
So an embarrassing moment. I'm very blonde, as you can see, but I thought rehab was a country.
That's actually really good. My embarrassing moment is I was once in a chocolate shop, and I saw some chocolates I didn't like the look of, and I was with a friend, and I was like, oh, they look horrible, and I was going, I accidentally retched so hard I was sick on the floor, and the woman behind the counter actually shouted at me so loudly that I started crying, and then urinated a bit.
Oh wow.
When did you last cry in front of another person?
When my dog died.
Mm-hmm.
A few
And
months.
just open them a bit more, the eyes. Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
And
And just keep them. Try and just not blink.
I mean, that's very hard not to blink. How long?
Just for the rest of the story. You were saying your dog died.
As the date finally wound to an end, I felt secure that both of us had a wonderful time.
I think it went really well.
Did you feel intimate?
I felt very intimate. Am I in love? You can't. How can you tell after one date? It would, it might take 2, 3, 4.
Do you think you'd see him again?
As friends, I think he would make a very interesting, fun friend, but probably not on another level.
Now, making someone fall in love with me came very naturally, but of course, that's not the end of the process. And what remains of the journey, judging by the 100,000 yearly UK divorces, global decline in birth rates, and 20% of people that will be sexually unfaithful at some point, doesn't exactly seem like a breeze.
When we seek love, we're probably not chasing a rush of unconscious chemicals or a brief connection that may or may not lead to sex. Most people are looking for something a tad more lengthy, and that isn't always easy.
In 2005, Italian scientists found that the beginnings of love are associated not just with hormones, but with an increase in levels of proteins called nerve growth factor. But this physical change in new couples typically only lasted for 12 months.
As a result, tabloids like the Mail Online hysterically reported true love only lasts a year, but this conflation is inherently ridiculous. Try as we might to understand our subjective experience of love through biochemistry, the words true love can't be reduced to science and mean remarkably different things to different people. So what is love? How can we define it? And can it be rekindled once its chemical components begin to wane?
Eric Fromm was a psychoanalyst, and he believed that there is a feeling of love, and I can feel that love within me. Fromm also believed that the feeling of love was relatively unimportant. He believed that love was really a demonstration of love. It's the doing of love. How do I do love?
Under this definition, the chemistry of love is usurped by its practicality. Love in the contemporary world has more to do with commitment and compromise than it does spikes in nerve proteins and relentless erections.
Perhaps true love isn't the ephemeral, unconscious infatuation of our primate brains, but rather the beauty of remaining intimate and affectionate whilst also raising an obnoxious child and calmly debating the most effective brand of oven cleaner.
But perhaps even this definition of love as an active and long-term commitment is rooted in our cultural history.
You see, love can also be understood anthropologically. Within the Western world, love, in its current predominantly monogamous form, backed by social institutions like marriage, can be viewed as effectively economic.
According to evolutionary anthropologist Dr. Laura Fortunato, Eurasian monogamy arose around 12,000 years ago with the boom of agriculture. Suddenly, couples needed to pass down valuable land to their heirs so their children could be wealthier and thus more likely to not die and pop out kids of their own.
After all, mommy and daddy's genes needed to survive, so couples reached a compromise. A man agrees to pass down resources exclusively to one woman's children. The woman commits to sexual monogamy, so her children are more likely to be that man's offspring.
From this obscene premise, the institution of marriage apparently arose, not out of our evolving minds, but from our evolving culture.
In this way, every romantic novel and Disney flick you've ever indulged in boils down to a bleak advertisement for inheritance, which is both funny and sad.
We can look at love from wildly different angles. Love is the proliferation of chemical messengers in your blood. Love is the unthinking drive of your monkey mind. Love is what you learn and where you live, or a commitment born from the need to give money to your dumb kids so they won't die as quickly. Or perhaps love is atavistic, a push towards producing offspring irreconcilable with the damage your prospective child will reckon upon this dying ball of water. Or maybe it's just a more intricate form of masturbation.
Of course, love can also be non-romantic. While studies have shown that relationships are the key indicator of human happiness, friends and family rank just as highly as spouse.
It's worth considering the tangle of chemistry, evolution, culture and uniqueness that underpins our sensation of love, so we can accurately diagnose just what it is we're really looking for in our relationships. Despite my best efforts, it didn't seem like the science of love offered any real tricks for me to cheat my way into the perfect romantic relationship. But ultimately, that's okay with me. Love is a confusing and complex thing, and for now, surrounded by friends as I am, I'm entirely content on my own.